All right, so hello, my good friends, and welcome to another weekly edition of Stock Market Mutterings, where I'll do my best to try to find you some quality trade setups. This is for the week of April 1st, the Fool's Day, but we're not going to be fools, man. No way, not us. We're going to get out there and we're going to do really good this week and make some money. So if you guys need help with your trading, you want to take your trading to the next level, you want to align your trading with a professional trading community, I'm going to post a link on there. Take a moment to join us in our live community. Now, before I get started, I do want to say something. Our mini camp course that I do probably 2 times a year, we're going to be doing that here in the next week. And in this course, I'm going to go over my 4 main trading strategies, my stock trading strategies, as well as 4 of my main option trading strategies. A lot of other stuff is covered in there, like scanning, setting up your charts, entries, exits, psychology, the whole works. With it, you get a free DVD, and you also get free access to our live trade room while you're taking the course. That way, when you learn the strategies, you get to see how they play out in a real-time environment. I'm not sure anyone else out there offers something like that, and I think you're going to like it. So if you're looking for a course, or you're trying to really take this trading thing seriously and you want to progress to another level, I'm going to post that link up there on the screen as well. Mini camp coming up soon. Check it out. So what are we going to talk about, my friends? What is it? I say the market hasn't done much this week. Now, where we left off last week is Friday was just basically a bloodbath. You just had nothing but selling all of last Friday. And going into this week, I'm going to open up the chart just a little bit. I was really curious to see if we were going to get any downward momentum, if it was going to try to pick up the pace to the downside and maybe start testing that 200-day moving average. And you tried a little bit there on Monday to do it. It tried to force its way down there, but the market gets picked back up, and it never really got any lower than that point. Now, it didn't just blow out numbers to the upside. It didn't grind out day after day, but it just kind of stopped, and basically it just went sideways. We had a little bit of strength late Thursday into Friday, but for the most part it just kind of went sideways. I thought that 200-day moving average would get tested, but it didn't. So it's kind of hard to tell right now where we're going to go next. It feels like the market does not want to go up, but on that same token, it does every time it gets pressed down, or anytime the bearish camp gets an opportunity to really start digging into some lower numbers, it just gets bought back up. It just stops. It just washes out, and then it bounces. And that's just kind of the pattern that we're in right now. So if you even go back, you had that one brief sell down period there at the beginning of March, but since that time, you just kind of gone sideways there practically for 2 weeks. You had a couple big days, one big day, one big up day, one big down day. That's what I'm trying to say. But for the most part, you haven't really gone anywhere. But if that's the way it is sometimes, there's a lot of action in between that, so the overall picture doesn't tell the story. Maybe we start testing back up towards that 284. If you're starting to see some selling, then maybe that 200-day moving average comes in at 275, but it is what it is right now, and you just kind of go with it. But normally, because we trade individual stocks, we're going to take a look at a few things that I think have some pretty nice setups to them, or have some good risk to reward opportunities. The first thing I want to look at, I believe I talked about this last week, is I said BA should be due for a bounce, and it was. It had a pretty nice bounce here over a couple of days, and it closed really strong here on Friday. But even though it's bounced nicely off of its 200-day moving average from 360 up here, there's still a lot more room. I think this thing wants to trade back up at least to this piece of upper resistance area that goes to from the 15th, and that's like 386s, and maybe start working, not all in one day, obviously. Who knows in this market, right? But I think eventually it wants to work its way back to $400. So even though it's already made a nice move this week, I still think there's about $20 more of premium on this to be captured. I think you're going to try to see a run to 400. Now, obviously, as a trader, you can pick some support resistance levels intraday and play that, and obviously get more than the $20 that's there. But I think you're going to see a little more bullish activity on this, providing that, no other stories about it comes out. So kind of keep this BA out here. I think you're going to see a little bit more bullishness out of this thing, and especially if the market stays strong or we actually start to move up a little bit more, BA will be definitely one to watch. Now, a lot of these stocks were ones I talked about that were my top short plays just a couple of weeks ago. And they've kind of done, well, I'm not going to say they've done what I thought they were going to do. They started, but they didn't finish. One was Shop. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, I was like, hey, we got a short Shop, and we did. And it was pretty good. But it was actually a bit disappointing, to be honest with you, because, again, what you're not seeing here whatsoever at all this year is continued selling. I think maybe you got one day there. That one day we had Friday was like one liquidation day. But you're not getting anything that just continues to build momentum to the downside. Once something starts to get sold off, it just stops. It's like, okay, nobody trades it no more, and that's it. And they're just not moving down. This was another one. Yes, it faded, but you're talking about a stock here that went from like $130 at the beginning of the year straight up to 208, and then it puts in a fade, and it just fades down to like $200. 199, $200. You barely stick under $200. That's not a lot considering the thing's up $100. It doesn't even want to give back 10. And then here you are pretty much just clustering off the 20-day moving average right here. And it's just lined up. Again, if we're not going to see any pressure to the downside, the longer that takes place, I think you're only going to see a really strong, solid up move. And if this thing starts breaking back above the 208 where this whole thing started, you're going to see higher prices on this thing yet again. I mean, it's not quite done or feels like it's done yet. Now, that obviously can change at any moment, but as we left off last week with everything selling, thinking, okay, maybe we start to see more acceleration to the downside. That was quickly dispelled at the beginning of the week, and we went flat. So you just never know what you're going to get. But that thing's kind of lined up there pretty good. And there's a lot that look like this. You've got CYBR. I mean, look at this chart just flagging here, setting up, building its consolidation, just slightly closing over the daily chart high. Really, really bullish thing, a lot like AVGO that we talked about last week. So, I mean, you're looking at possible. This thing looks like it wants to start working on 125s, maybe even 130. Now it moves a little bit slower than some of the bigger beta names, but here's another one. CYBR just lined up right there on the daily chart. Now something that interests me a little bit more, because one of the things I don't like to do is buy up top like this. I've never been a fan of that. I know some people have great success. If you are, congrats to you, but it doesn't always work for me. Wayfair. I want to go back and visit Wayfair here. I've talked about this thing a lot, and it's been beat up the last couple of days, huh? And I know it's like it was up a ton too. I mean, this thing was like 90 some dollars when the year started. But a huge gap up on earnings, big run after earnings, was doing the whole flag build thing just like you saw from Shop, and then this last week and a half hasn't been that good for this stock. I mean, it's come off of the 172 pretty solid. I mean, this is what I would talk about build. It's rare in this market, it feels like, to see momentum building to the downside, but this is one of them. And still on Friday, it had a real tough time getting out of its own way. It had this like brief piece right here where it was like, okay, well, maybe today's that bounce day, and then it turns around and gives it all back. So right now, as it stands, I don't think it's quite ready. You're probably going to see a little bit more, but I would think it's going to turn out to be something like a TTD, which I'll show you in just a second. When these former bullish stocks sell down a few days like this or get into some support areas, they typically have a bounce. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to go back to their all-time highs, but you should see a nice bounce. What I'm really eyeing is the gap opening price right here from the 22nd of February right here. I think that's roughly $141. If it can get a little closer to that, somewhere down into that level, I will start. That's close to that red line. I lost it. Now, 50-day. That's my 50-day moving average on my chart. If it gets down to that, I think I'll be ready to go in, or at least if I see some other signs to play a bounce. I'll show you TTD so you know what I'm talking about if most of you don't know. Here's another one. This is a classic example of that. Failed breakout, gets wiped out Friday, just begins the day with the downward momentum, sells into that support back from the 8th, And then look, it just pivots, and then from there it goes from 183 to 193. I mean, it's a hell of a trade, right? 197, it closes on Friday. I mean, that's a hell of a trade. That's what I kind of see Wayfair playing out like this week. So when we talk about pullbacks and stuff in the markets, you know, if you guys trade over a long period of time, you're going to make more money on this kind of stuff right here than you are that bullshit high a day garbage. And when they kind of flatline the markets up here, I feel it's just a waste of all of our time. You know, you want those pullbacks so you can pick up some quality prices, use more size, and capture these massive moves. If everything's going to trade in these tight ranges, it's just a joke, in my opinion. So maybe a little market frustration there, huh? So watch Wayfair. I think you're going to see it. You know, put the TTD chart up there. I think that's what you're going to see Wayfair look like. Now, I'm going to give you something here. Psycho stock here. Something a little different. I haven't played around with CMG for a while or looked at it, and there's good reason for that. A couple years ago, I got barbecue cooked smoke on a short, and it was a good cover because I think that was like back when the stock was like $200 a long time ago. Anyway, this thing, I mean, what do you say about this? You know, I have no idea. I mean, people getting salmonella in that restaurant, that's like bullish. That's a bullish sign. And it's like, geez, it just doesn't stop. I mean, look how many days this thing has gone up. It's had like 2 tiny red days in the last month. And this last breakout was from 600 to 7. It's like another $100. This thing's going to be trading higher than Amazon at this rate. Just not. I mean, look at this damn thing. I feel I'd like to take a shot short. I know it's psycho looking at this. Like, you want to short that thing? Yes, I do. But I think in this case, rather than using the common stock and allowing yourself to possibly be put in a bad position, possibly try a option trade, something that you could be okay losing 100% of the funds. Maybe I would do something probably out of the money, like a 675, 650, maybe something like that, stretched out towards, you know, maybe prior to earnings. I think you might see a little bit of a pullback. Just an idea I'm playing with. I mean, I look at this and there's probably going to be better stocks out there to short, or better plays to be had. But when you see something like this, it's moved up. It's not vulnerable. At some point during its life cycle, it will sell off. If you look at the charts from, I'll scoot it over here a little bit. You know, it's done that before. You've had some significant pullbacks in that. During December, you had a nice one there, went 461 down to 384. So I mean, there's a $50 fade in this, $60 fade. Obviously, timing it will be important with options, but just keep that thing up on the list. I mean, if you're looking for something that could pay out big, this is a trade that could do that. You could put yourself a short in here. I would definitely think I would use options rather than just messing around with the stock. The way this thing gets upgraded a lot and gaps up sometimes, you don't want to wake up to some silly 12-point, 15-point gap. But just something I'm throwing out there to take a look at. Maybe I'll dabble, put a sprinkle in there or something like that. Huh? What do you guys think? Anyway, we'll leave it off with that, with the Chipotle. So anyway, guys, remember, you need help, visit the live trade room. Don't forget about the mini camp. I think you guys would love this class. It's awesome. We're going to do 8 classes there. It's like 14, 15 hours worth of training. Most of it's done live. It's an amazing course. So make sure you check that out. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching Stock Market Mutterings. Trade well, and I'll talk to you next week.